All right. All right, I want to thank everyone for coming out this afternoon for this press conference. I called this press conference to clear up any misunderstandings and numerous misstatements of facts. After the press conference, I will answer any question anyone has. I want everyone to understand that I do not run my meetings the way the county council does. We will have civility. If you have a question that pertains to this topic, I would be happy to answer it for anyone. If at any point in time you become belligerent or nasty towards me or to my staff, you will be asked to leave. So first and foremost, I want to address why I was not at the county council meeting. I want everyone to understand that these meetings are held twice a month, and they are county council meetings, not a county executive meeting. Second, on an MOU that I was a co-signer on, I was not invited to speak or clarify anything. I do find it quite concerning that an open work session was scheduled, and as a signer of the MOU was not invited to the table to discuss this, nor was the vendor, nor was the county attorney who drafted it. As I watched the council meeting on Tuesday evening, I was appalled at the behavior of some of the elected officials in this county. Calling other elected officials names, calling them a bully, slandering them, or making false accusations is absolutely inappropriate. Emailing elected officials with threatening statements is also inept behavior. What was seen on Tuesday is a perfect example of why we need a balance of power. Hosting a witch hunt where the accused is not allowed to defend themselves or state their side of the argument or present evidence to debunk the accusations is not the type of leadership that we want running this county, nor is it the type of leadership that our great country was founded on. While I very much enjoyed teaching about the Salem witch trials in my 11th grade American literature class, I don't want our county government repeating that part of history. Our country was founded on constitutional principles, and what I witnessed on Tuesday was the exact opposite. While I understand that there are about 30 upset people in the council chambers, I have 103,000 citizens that I have to think about. Hundreds have expressed their appreciation for the transparency and creative thinking with working with local media. What kind of leader would I be to cater to 30 people and to pander to the camera and ignore the needs of the rest of the county? I'm going to provide everyone a quick background of how this even came into place. The idea of encryption was introduced to me, and I'll be honest, I really wasn't sold on it. But we scheduled a meeting that was held at Emergency Services that was headed up by Lorenzo Cropper, the head of Emergency Services, along with Sheriff Mike Lewis and other heads of law enforcement in the county, along with our fire departments and EMS. In the meeting, the sheriff explained the importance of encryption and how it would be beneficial to officer safety, as well as making sure that sensitive information did not go out across any sort of scanner or radio that was in the hands of civilians. In that meeting, it was decided that all of law enforcement would go to an encrypted channel, whereas fire and EMS would not go encrypted as of yet. I explained in the meeting that I would support whatever decision was made, and when we were ready to flip to full encryption, we would stand together as a united front and explain to the entire county why we decided to go in this direction. In talking with our radio division, this would not cost the county any money, as the radio division was able to program the encryption key on all of the radios. The only cost came when our radios in our corrections vans had to be programmed, and the sheriff actually covered that with his own budget. As time went on, more and more people learned about the fact that Wicomico County would eventually go to encrypted channels, and many people reached out providing articles as to why encryption would not be a good idea. They also provided numerous articles showing that various states were not allowing full encryption without having a policy in place. We also did some research where in Baltimore City, they decided to go fully encrypted, but they use a program called Broadcastify that provides a 15-minute delay of any radio transmissions, but the public is kept informed. The only goal of the creation of the MOU was to keep our public informed and safe, and doing so in a fiscally responsible way. At no point was this done secretly. At no point was this exclusive. At no point does this affect any other county. And at no point does the MOU give the vendor access to any other channels other than main dispatch. I want to address various misstatements that were made on Tuesday night. Based on the many assertions, I can only assume that neither party involved or that participated in the open work session actually read or fully understood the MOU. Our attorneys put in many safeguards for the county, and I will go through each misstatement and provide clarity for each one of you to form a complete picture of this entire issue rather than just one side. The first misstatement was that other counties are affected by this decision. This is false. No channels from any other county are programmed onto the radio, nor would they be affected by a vendor posting what is only going out on our main dispatch. The second misstatement, with the MOU, the vendor has access to all channels, including SWAT. This is also false. The only channels that have been added are those for main dispatch. There is absolutely no reason for any vendor to have access to those channels. Those channels inherently have sensitive information and would never be public in any way. The third misstatement, that there was no communication from my office or that the sheriff was never consulted. This is absolutely false. As soon as the potential issue was brought to me, I emailed not just the sheriff, but his entire command staff on June 24th. And I'm going to read to you the email that I sent him. Excuse me one moment. Good morning. I met with emergency services today and was told that encryption will happen potentially on July 9th. Paul Wilbur, who you all know as our attorney, was here and is concerned about the policy or lack thereof with encryption. It is suggested that the sheriff's office develop a policy as to when the information from the calls will be available to accredited, authorized media representatives and then also to the general public. Paul looked on the sheriff's office website and saw the call log of information that is posted, but stated that it did not meet PIA requirements. After much research, Paul suggests the 15-minute delay system Broadcastify or something similar would be the best way to ensure transparency and avoid potential litigation. The delay system will ensure officer safety. As you will see below, many states have proposed and passed legislation not allowing full encryption without media access, and rumor has it that Maryland lawmakers are headed in that direction in 2025. I will defer to you. I'm going to repeat that. I will defer to you all on the policy as to what will work best for Wicomico County, as you are the experts. Thanks so much. To me, that email proves that he and his staff were consulted. We defer to them as they are the experts. To this day, which is August 8th, no one from the sheriff's office has reached out, nor have they acknowledged the email, scheduled a meeting with the attorney, or with me to alleviate some of these concerns. I also met with one of the captains within this time frame about another topic, but did mention the encryption, to which I received no response. I also met with another member of the command staff just last Thursday and said I was available on Friday and on Monday to discuss anything, to which I received no response. This MOU was a solution due to the concerns that were presented to me by our county attorney and the lack of response from the recipients of the email. The fourth misstatement, the Attorney General was contacted. I have it on good authority with the many contacts that I have that absolutely no one from Wicomico County has contacted the AG's office about any such matter of what was discussed on Tuesday night. The fifth misstatement, this was exclusive just for Eastern Shore Undercover. This is also absolutely false. On July 22nd, an email was sent to various local news outlets, and this is what that stated. Good afternoon. I know I've spoken to several agencies, but I wanted to send this email to everyone just in case. As many of you are aware, Wicomico County Police radio communications have gone encrypted for various reasons, including officer safety and civilian information protection. While we understand the importance and the necessity of encryption, we also recognize the importance of transparency and adhering to PIA requirements. We wanted to reach out to the various news agencies to see if they would like to partner with us at the county level to adhere to transparency and PIA. What we are looking for in a partnership is a news agency that, number one, is a trademarked organization with proof qualified by the state and/or federal government. Number two, will designate staff to publish radio communications from main dispatch channel. The radio will be provided. Number three, all radio communications will be posted with a 30-minute delay. Number four, will publish events and press releases from the county. Number five, will not publish any sensitive information which will be defined in the MOU agreement. Will publish at no cost to the county, was number six. We understand these stipulations are very specific and probably very difficult to adhere to, but we wanted to give everyone a chance to respond if they were interested. If you are interested, please respond to this email by Friday, July 26, 2024. If not, please just disregard this email. We are hoping this potential partnership will signify a step forward in maintaining the delicate balance between operational security and public transparency. Wicomico County is committed to providing its residents with the information they need while safeguarding the integrity of its emergency response operations. I want to thank the various news agencies for reiterating to the public that you were asked and included in the email correspondence. The sixth misstatement, and this one probably is the worst of all, that Eastern Shore Undercover bribed me. This is probably the most horrific and degrading thing I have ever heard. During my campaign, Eastern Shore Undercover did not contribute one dime to me. Not one dime. Back in February, I held an event that had various businesses sponsor the event. Eastern Shore Undercover was one of the businesses, along with many others. I feel that many of these misstatements happened due to the lack of communication and the lack of response. The silver lining out of everything that happened Tuesday evening is that we now know that there is a plan in the works, which was stated by our sheriff. And had we had that information back in June when the original email was sent, all of this could have been avoided. But because now we know that there is a plan in the works, we have paused our MOU with Eastern Shore Undercover. Not dissolved it, but paused it. Mr. Earl Campbell has graciously returned the radio, or the county radio, to me. While his contract is completely valid, he recognizes the picture that is being painted. My office will follow up with the sheriff's office to discuss the plan and our policy that he says is in place. In the meantime, I want to thank Ms. Mikkel Dallum and Mr. Mike Goldberg for mentioning Broadcastify in the county council meeting, and to my director of administration. While that option does cost a little bit more than Eastern Shore Undercover, we are very open to that idea, and we look forward to working with emergency services to potentially move forward with that. So thank you both. I want to thank everyone, and I also want everyone to know that none of this was done with malicious intent. It was not done to harm. It was not done, to hurt any person or agency. As I stated before, this was done to improve the safety of our law enforcement officers, to improve the safety of our citizens, to keep our citizens more informed, and done in a fiscally responsible way. I think the biggest lesson learned here is that communication is key. And when problems or concerns are brought to us, ignoring them is really not the best way to handle it. As I stated in the email to all of the local news outlets, Wicomico County is committed to providing its residents with the information they need while safeguarding the integrity of its emergency response operations. Thank you for your time, and at this time, I will take any questions that anyone has. Kyle.
The benefits of transparency, somebody being able to listen to this police chatter and then relay it to the public. What are the benefits to people, to neighbors here in Wicomico County?
I'm sorry, so you're saying what are the benefits for people to hear it all, or what are the benefits for people seeing it?
So in this case, Eastern Shore Undercover, being
Sure.
able to hear that and then relay that through Facebook.
Sure, yeah.
What kind of benefits?
Yeah. So the benefits that we saw, well, first and foremost, Eastern Shore Undercover has 124,000 followers. About 65,000 of them reside here in Wicomico County. So in a platform as large as that, getting information out to the public is key, and getting it out fast. So the benefits are you can avoid the traffic jam on Route 50. The benefits are there's a missing child, and we can have 103,000 people looking for that missing child. We can have 103,000 people looking for a missing pet. When there's a gunman outside, you know to not leave your house. So to me, information is key, and getting that information out to the public as quickly as possible. I would hope that nobody would argue to think that that's not beneficial. Yes, Hannah?
I spoke with Sheriff Lewis this morning for this press conference. He tells me that in addition to the radio that was given to Mr. Campbell, there are 3 other radios that you have requested for your office. Can you tell us if you plan to return those and what you currently use them for?
Sure. So actually, when I took the role of county executive, the county administrator, and the deputy director just had them in their office. So those 3 are still in there. Usually they're turned down because we have meetings or something like that in there. So they just happen to be part of the office equipment. So.
Do you plan to return those 3 radios as well?
I mean, if he wants them back, that's fine. I mean, they just typically came with the office. So I don't know if he would like them back, that's fine. They just kind of sit on our desk. So, yes, Joe.
Thank you, Madam Executive. Under what conditions would you unpause the MOU that is currently paused with Eastern Shore Undercover?
I'm sorry, say that again. To unpause it.
Unpause it.
Yeah. Well, actually, I think what it would take is if there's no action whatsoever. So to be told that there's a plan and a policy in place, and if we found out that there wasn't a plan or policy in place, we would probably look at something else. But like I said, with residents and people mentioning that they think Broadcastify would be a good idea, I mean, I'm actually for that. We were trying to figure out the cost, and what happened is that Broadcastify, the quote that we ended up getting, and this is through emergency services, was $150,000. And the reason is because we needed 4 separate towers because of having 4 separate agencies. And that's not the cost every single year. That's a one-time thing, and then you end up paying a fee, whatever that would be. So in all honesty, if we were able to move to something similar to Broadcastify or something like that, there would be no need to even start the MOU back up.
Do you have a plan for if you decided to start the MOU back up, how you would let the public know that was happening?
I haven't even really thought about it right now. It literally just got paused today. So, I mean, it would be a little bit because, like I said, if the sheriff is working on a plan, we want to let that plan kind of come to fruition first and then have it reevaluated. Just what was put out right now and I haven't looked at this new plan or policy that he has. What was being put out before was told to us by the attorney did not meet PIA requirements. So that was our biggest thing, is making sure that we were adhering to that. So it would be hard for me to say, but like I said, if we were to go to something else, then there would be no need to do that. Mm-hmm.
Something that Sheriff Phillips of Worcester County said on Tuesday that I found really interesting was that one of the reasons why they went to encryption was because people were listening and taking down personal information, stealing identities, which is a huge issue. And I'm sure it's not something that happens very often, but it did happen. So, what do you say to someone who has concerns about that kind of thing happening in our county?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. I have, it was funny. I've actually read an article about that, and what is interesting is that I start to think that there are a lot of people that have my full name, and there are a lot of people that know my birth date. It's right out on Facebook. So I have a hard time understanding how a name and a birth date could potentially steal someone's identity, because I feel like that would happen a lot more than what it does. I would hope, our law enforcement officers are trained and they're great at their job. I don't recall ever, and correct me if I'm wrong, anybody who has listened to the radio, and maybe, Mr. Campbell, you could probably say this too. I don't know how often Social Security numbers are put out there or why they would even be put out there. And I feel like you need that and a maiden name. it's just kind of interesting. So while, of course, we don't want any sensitive information out there, and that was actually part of the MOU, and if anybody had read the MOU, you see that it's drafted in there as to what sensitive information is considered. None of that was going out. The one benefit of doing it the way that we had chose to do it was you actually have a human filter. So with Broadcastify, one of the concerns of Broadcastify is that it is just the radio communication exactly how it is, being broadcasted 15 minutes later. Baltimore City did that because they were very adamant about transparency. One of the senators there was very much against the full encryption, and legislation was actually in the process of being drafted, and then they came out with Broadcastify. So that was one of the benefits, I thought, was that we have a human filter making sure none of that is going out. But I do understand what you're saying, so.
As part of the MOU, are there like specific guidelines for what type of information can and cannot be published? Or
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, so there was no sensitive information, and that was defined in the MOU. There was no identifiable psychological or anything like that. So you will actually sort of see, and if you are a follower of Eastern Shore Undercover, you will see that at least from what I saw, you saw a change in how things were being published. Everything was very vanilla, and it was just like, hey, this is what it is, and this is what's going out. So, yeah. Yes, sir.
I'm just a resident of Wicomico County.
Sure.
In your executive exclusive, in the press conference you gave today, and previous statements you've made, you mentioned that you partnered with an accredited media outlet. Can you elaborate on what accreditation Eastern Shore Undercover has? And is this the person that operates Eastern Shore Undercover? Is he a member of the Society of Professional Journalists? And does he have any journalism training or experience other than operating the Facebook page?
Sure. Well, the good news is that he's right here. So would you mind if he answered that?
Well, I'd like you to answer it because you entered into the contract.
Sure. Yeah, I just didn't know if you wanted it, from the source. So sure. So when we say accredited, we mean a trademarked news organization. So in order to get trademarked, it takes about 9 months, and it's about 12,000.
I have a trademark.
Well, no, but it's a trademark news agency, so it's a little bit different than that. So, so it's not just that like anybody could start a Facebook page and say, hey, I want this, So there were a lot of stipulations with it. The documentation is right in a folder along with the MOU to show that he's trademarked federally as well, so across the United States. So, and most of your news outlets are. And it's usually they're what do you guys call them? Not sister companies, but what is it, like WNBT is with 47, that's your, I forget what that's called.
We're owned by Marquee Broadcasting.
Marquee Broadcasting. Okay, so yeah, those people would have that accreditation. So
what is the accreditation specifically?
it's a trademarked news company. So I don't know how else to say it in a different way. And like I said, he is right here. So if you want to hear a more detailed description, he is here.
Well, did you require that the vendor be a member of the Society of Professional Journalists?
I did not.
Did you vet any kind of journalism training?
No, I did not.
Was there does that person have any oversight from, say, an editor, like a traditional news organization?
No, they run their own organization, so.
So no.
No.
Okay. Then can I just ask a second question?
Sure.
Cities like Baltimore and Chicago Baltimore uses Broadcastify, Chicago is entertaining, using Broadcastify. These are cities that are under a federal consent decree with the Department of Justice for a track record of more or less bad behavior among the police department and a track record of documented racist behavior among police officers. Are you suggesting that the citizens of Wicomico County share some of those concerns in terms of transparency? Because that's a major reason why folks in, say, Baltimore City are apprehensive about encrypted police communications because of just some of the events that have been, come to a national news level, like the murder of Freddie Gray in a Baltimore police van. So these are some of the reasons why transparency is so important in those communities, is because of behavior among sworn police officers,
Okay, so
that doesn't seem like we have, our police officers in our community don't necessarily have that same track record.
I agree,
Under
1,000%.
degrees. So, I think we're conflating when we try to compare the conditions in Wicomico County versus Baltimore City. I don't think it's an apples to apples comparison. So, can you just maybe clarify a live stream of police chatter is different than, say, transparency. All the police calls are available through the Public Information Act requests. Just like if somebody wanted to request, I don't know, an email that you sent to somebody else, they'd have to, fill out a form on a website and wait 30 days or whatever. So can you just elaborate,
Sure. So you threw a lot at me. So let me back up a little bit. So first and foremost, I think transparency is important to everyone across the United States. So I don't think that you need some horrific event to justify transparency. I think our citizens here in the county deserve that. Now, you said something about our officers. Our officers here in the county are some of the best, and I would put them up against anybody. And this has nothing to do with them whatsoever. This is about providing the public and keeping the public informed. So while we might not have had a Freddie Gray incident, there are people who want their missing child found and want people searching for them. Or they had, there was a horrific accident on Route 50 where a child was killed. There were a lot of people that were super grateful that they knew to look on Eastern Shore Undercover or some sort of news outlet to say, hey, avoid this area. So while we might not have had a horrific event, and thank God we have not, I think that the people here in this county deserve transparency. And I'll be honest with you, I understand about the PIA, and the majority of this information is already deemed public and accessible through the PIA request. But the only question here, and what you're saying, is timing. And I do not want our citizens to just get the bare minimum of 30 days, waiting up to 30 days. They deserve to be informed, and they deserve to be informed in a timely manner. So I think it's just my preference. I think citizens deserve better than that. It has nothing to do with our law enforcement. Again, I think that they do a fantastic job here. But our citizens, no matter what, deserve to be informed. Yeah. Hold on, Kyle, if you don't mind. Paula.
Were those radios that Eastern Shore Undercover had or radio had, and the ones that in your office, were you able to talk back on those?
I don't know. I've never tried. I don't know. From what I've understood, our radio guys did a really good job with his radio, and from what I'll be honest with you, I really don't know that answer. So I know that was a concern, I think, that was brought up in the council meeting, that there could be some sort of communication, or there could be, talking back. I really don't know. I've never picked up my radio to try to talk on it, so I don't know. So, Kyle.
So in that meeting, Sheriff Lewis was, I would say, adamant that he was not reached out to, that his department was not contacted by you before this memorandum of understanding. You read us the email today. Where did the wires get crossed then, and why was he so staunch in saying we weren't told at all before this happened?
I think you would have to ask Sheriff Lewis that question, because not only was there an email sent, but we talked to 2 members of the command staff. So I'm not sure, and I feel, I was a little shocked actually when he said that because of having the email correspondence. I think there's actually a couple people in this room that actually asked for the PIA to see the communications back and forth, and you will see one going on my end and nothing coming back. And like I said, we did have 2 meetings. The last one was on Thursday with the major, and this very topic was talked about, and I said I would be more than willing to sit and talk on Friday. I'd be willing to talk on Monday, but unfortunately there was no communication back, so.
Mr. Campbell has given the radio back.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I know the attorney brought it up that radio, based on the state, would be property of the state, and that therefore you didn't have the right to, even though it has been given back, give it to him in the first place. So do you have a reasoning of why? Was there a reason you felt this is something that, as the county executive, I have the authority to do.
Yeah. Well, I think the radio division falls under me, and so the equipment falls under the radio division. I did feel I had the authority, and when we chatted with the attorney, I mean, we weren't trying to be sneaky or do something illegal, obviously, but I did feel I had the authority, and so and when we chatted with the attorney who drafted the MOU, I mean, obviously that was part of that. So, and as I said, this was not done with malicious intent. This was done for the public. This was done to make the public aware, to get information out a lot quicker. So that's all I can really say on that. And really, I mean, the legality aspect of it would really go through the attorney anyway. So, yep. Yes, Mr. Goldberg.
Thank you, Mr. Giordano. In any of the email correspondence that you sent to Sheriff Lewis, did you advise him that an MOU was being considered that would allow civilian access to encrypted police communications? And in any of those emails, did you request a future meeting or a response from the sheriff when you sent those emails?
So when I sent the original email talking about, the concerns that we had, receiving nothing, back from him, and then having the communication with the two officers, no, we did not specifically talk about that. No, we did not.
So he was unaware of the MOU?
He was, well, no, I think he kind of knew about it, and especially after we had said, let's have a talk on Friday or Monday prior to the council meeting, and he chose to come to the council meeting instead.
But there was nothing in the email?
Not in an email, no.
Follow-up conversation?
No, the follow-up conversation will happen after this.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sure. Yes, Joe?
Pardon me for just 1 second. So is there any part of the original MOU with Eastern Shore Undercover that is still in effect? Because there was some other aspects as far as county events and county news press releases. Is any of that still in effect, or has all of it been paused?
So the entire MOU has been paused, but actually prior to this MOU, when we would send out any press releases or things like that, Eastern Shore Undercover is on our press release site, or our press release list, sorry. And so he'll continue to get them, but it will be up to him whether he posts them or not.
So one follow-up question to that.
Sure.
It's been reported by Mr. Campbell himself that there's several folks who he has chosen to block for various reasons. So one of the key aspects of communication with you and your office has been your show, Executive Exclusive. And it is aired on his site. In the era of transparency, would you be willing to air that show just in its normal form on your official government site for your office?
My Executive Exclusive?
Yes.
So it's on YouTube on PAC 14 as well, so the whole public has access to it. So I probably wouldn't, I mean, I guess I could post it, but with it being on PAC 14, and I mean, we would just go it through there. So he chooses to.
Would you consider to do it?
Putting
On your
Executive Exclusive? Yeah, of course I would consider it, I guess.
Okay. What would make you not want to have it on your official site?
I just never even really thought about it. You mean my official Facebook page?
Yeah, just that way, because you're the elected official. You've represented us as citizens here. In that aspect, for full transparency, in the way that you have chosen to get out information. I mean, I watch your show. You have a lot of information on there. That way, the whole public has access to it in a similar fashion that you talked about having, information as far as, police communications. If it was on your site, then no one else would have control over who could or could not see it. Is that right? Would you do that?
I mean, yes, I mean, I would definitely consider it, but like I said, it's already publicly accessible, so it's not like the only place it's posted is Eastern Shore Undercover. It's on PAC 14's YouTube site, so just as your show is. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just hear a lot of, it's constantly full transparency. And I read Eastern Shore Undercover from time to time, and I know the comments came up the other night numerous times about people being blocked because it is his own page, and I guess he can do whatever he wants. But as the county official, you're talking about full transparency. Why are you letting somebody share information when it's not transparent to somebody that might have disagreed with him on anything from political or anything, and it's not fully transparent at that point because not everybody can see it.
Right.
He picks and chooses who gets to see the site.
Right. Well, no, and I actually.
The best outlet for, for the information.
No, and I understand that point. Right now, we won't have anything though, so now no citizens have access to it. So.
Shirley, can I say something?
Yeah, sure.
A lot of people get hung up on this whole thing about getting banned. And I'll throw this back to Mr. White. you know, you're in a short boat, right, in Ocean City?
Actually, sir, I'm just here as a resident
I'm
of
just
this
using your
town.
business as a.
I actually have
Okay.
never imparted my
But if somebody
business on
comes in
anything
your
here.
business and they're not cooperative and they get they get, you know, disrespectful and they start cursing at you, you have the right to make them leave your business, correct?
Mr. Campbell, and I.
Okay, you don't want to answer, that's fine.
Yeah, I'm not.
But as anybody in the
I'm not
general
an
public,
elected
you, sir,
official.
if somebody comes in your business and they're disrespectful to you and they curse at your wife or they curse at you in a personal manner, of course you're naturally going to get rid of them off your business. You're not going to keep them in there.
I'm not using the county equipment though,
And I have never neither until last week.
just throwing that out there.
But also, if I'm rude to a WBOC reporter, I can still log in and read their stories on their website.
Right, and you can do that same
They're not
thing
mean
with
to
me.
you, Kyle.
I gotta use music.
Just saying.
Yeah.
You can do that same thing on my page. I mean, I don't know who you are, if you're banned from the page or what. I'm just using an
I don't
example.
follow the page.
Okay, so we can keep this kind of civil, like we just don't need the back and forth in the audience, but I totally understand your point, but at this point, it's a moot point, but I understand.
Mr. Wood, can I say one more?
Yeah, go ahead, and that'll good.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Okay, yes,
I have a couple questions, but
Sure.
as long as I'm not limited to.
no, you're fine.
Okay, so just starting there, I just kind of wanted to speak about, you know, my comments on Tuesday night. I spoke about when this MOU was formed, you know, I'm seeing that you're coming back from that now, and I'm glad to see that. It's always good when you see that something's not right or it's not working to reverse course. I commend you for that. What I would like to say, though, is that I'm really surprised these things weren't considered. And when I was giving my comments, I talked about, number one, completeness of reporting, and number two, equity of access. And the very night I spoke there, I experienced both of these issues. My child was involved in an area where there was a large police presence. Eastern Shore Undercover had shut down for the evening. It was not covered. I gave my comments, and I actually commended the conversation that I'd had with Mr. Campbell as being civil, and about him dropping my ban, so I was restored. I was literally banned before I left the office for speaking at the podium. In such a case, when you have somebody who will ban you for speaking your mind in a public place, I did not come to his business or say anything mean, negative, wrong. I didn't even say anything mean, negative, wrong about him. These things are the antithesis of transparency. And I really truly wonder, you know, like, did they not occur to you? Did you not think about the equity of access? What would happen during the time when he was, you know, asleep for the night? What would happen when he's, you know, down for meetings? What would happen, you know, when he shuts down for family? All of which are right as a small businessman, and he should do. But how could that possibly be covering the transparency requirements?
Right. So I think in that aspect, part of the MOU was we understood that not every communication was going to be covered. So for example, if there was something that people were adamantly wanting to know about, then obviously the typical file the PIA, it comes to my office, we go through, you know, the legal part of it, making sure that everything can go out, and then it goes out that way. Excuse me, and then it goes out. I think the biggest thing is that we knew that a platform, whether it's Eastern Shore Undercover or not, but for this sake, it was Eastern Shore Undercover. There's again 124,000 people, 65,000 people in the community, or, you know, that are from Wicomico County, and our idea is to get information out as quickly and to as many people as possible. And like I said, you know, I'm not sure if any one thing is going to be the perfect solution. But like I said, right now, we know that Sheriff Lewis is working on a plan. I know there was something about a website and an app, and I was looking at a couple of things, and it hadn't been updated since May, but I'm thinking that that's what he's doing, is kind of working on that. So we'll hope that, you know, that kind of comes to fruition, and then, you know, and then we'll kind of go from there, so.
One final question.
Sure.
If I may. When the initial announcement was made on a Friday, and pardon me, I'm forgetting the date, but late July, I contacted my elected councilman in my district, and I asked him for some additional information. He explained to me that he emailed your office and was told that citizens who want the MOU need to file a PIA request. The hard thing with that is there's a 10 to 30 day delay. So is that as transparent as it could be? If, as a citizen, prior to this MOU being enacted, granted it's paused now, prior to it being enacted, there wasn't any pre-notification that then once there is a question that I'm forced as a private citizen to request a PIA this 10 to 30 days. And I take this not just for the MOU that was signed with Mr. Campbell, but also the MOU that was signed with Brad Hoffman for the safari at the quarry. Is it as transparent as possible that we find out these things after they happen, but then have to wait up to 30 days for additional information?
Sure. So we're kind of saying the same thing, that PIA is PIA, but this 10 to 30 days. So it's better to get the information out quicker, right? So we're kind of in agreement with that. As far as the MOU, that email, I remember that email. I sent the MOU right to Ms. Hurley, who had said that some members of the public were asking for it. And I had said, that's fine. Here's the, here it is. Let's just, from now on, probably should go through the PIA. And I think it was brought up by Mr. Holloway if Mr. Campbell had to follow through, and he has followed through with every PIA. I do want to say, though, that I do feel like my office, unless it's something huge and there's like a ton of information, we do a pretty good job at getting the information out as quickly as we can. Right now, AK, who typically does our PIAs, her husband had a really bad fall, and so she's out for a little bit. So, give us some grace here on that. But for the most part, we adhere to that as quickly as possible. So, from what I've understood, though, for what you've asked for, you got it relatively quickly.
I did in this case, and I can appreciate that in the future I would do that. I think the one difference is if it's a county council matter, there's going to be a 15-day window where there's transparent information sent out that there will be a hearing and there'll be a discussion or a work session. In the case, whether it be the safari at the quarry or the now paused MOU with Eastern Shore Undercover, there was not that transparent ahead of time, hey, look, this is maybe coming down the pipe.
Right.
So I think those are apples and oranges maybe with PIA. I understand what you're saying, and I appreciate you getting it to us so quickly, but the one main difference is for the legislative body to do anything, there has to be a preemptive notification that, hey, come here at this time, because there's several folks in the community, not just our growing numbers, but several of us who wish to be able to be informed and to have a voice.
Right. Well, I feel like we're saying the same thing, just about different matters. Like, so you want to be informed as quickly as possible. So do a lot of our residents. So it's kind of the same theme as what we're working with here. My point is, though, is that we have a process in place for a reason. And so if there is a topic that's brought up at the county council meeting, I don't think it's wise for citizens to just reach out to their county councilman and then go over to my office. So there is a process to go through with that. And so if we did it that way, then there would be no need for the PIA. People could just go through their council person, who then goes to the council administrator, who then goes to me or my office, and then it goes back. So there is a process where you can skip all of that, and it literally goes right to my office, and we can put it right back out.
There is a difference between understanding when an accident might happen that you can't plan for, and MOU that has had to have some time for negotiation. So I understand how you're trying to make the correlation, and I don't fully disagree with you, but they're not actually the same. There are times, if I was going to get married, that would be something I planned. I would put that out there. If I was going to slip and fall and break my neck, I probably wouldn't inform everybody that it was coming. Those are actually two different things.
So I guess my question would be, is it because you knew what was going on in the council meeting, or you have a good working relationship with your county councilman as to why you wouldn't have to follow the PIA process? And I had no idea who it was because there was no names mentioned. I just want to say, and what I reminded is, we do not have any problem giving any information out, but it also is good to have it documented who's asking for it and where it's going and what it is. So that was it. So yeah, Mr. Campbell, then I'll get over to you, Mr. Vanessa.
I just want to piggyback on your comment, Campbell.
Sure.
I think with the social security numbers going out every year, 100% against that. That should never happen. But that's not a transparency issue, and it's not an encryption issue. That's a procedural issue. I'll give you an example. In Ocean City, whenever someone is ran, they go to a different channel. It's called Channel 4. And they go to Channel 4, and they run all the information over Channel 4. So that social security number never is heard by the public. Unfortunately, in Wicomico County, we're behind the times when it comes to that. And that's the issue within each agency. That information should never be put out, like Hannah said, in the Dorchester County incident, which I'm not familiar with, I don't know anything about it, but that should never happen. That should never put citizens at risk for their social security numbers being put out over the air, or for anyone to hear that other than the people that need to be. The social security numbers, when they're given out over the air, 95% of the time are for a warrant. And if you're checking for somebody's warrant, and at that point, that person's going to be in handcuffs, there's no urgency to give it out at that point. So that's a procedural issue. That's not a transparency issue.
Okay, thank you. I have time for one more question. So, oh, sorry, okay.
Let the hands go.
Okay.
Madam Executive,
Yes, sir.
just like to get something cleared up in my mind about something I believe you said, and if I'm wrong, please tell me I'm wrong. When you speak about the communication process, you attended a meeting in emergency services
Yes, sir.
with the fire chiefs and the sheriff's department, and I don't know what other departments. And you stated that whatever they determined that night, you would go along with.
That was for whether we were going to encrypt or not. So not anything with policy or process or anything. It was just, are we doing it or are we not doing it?
And
So
they-
yes.
They decided that night that they wanted to go encrypted.
The law enforcement decided that they would encrypt and our fire and EMS would not.
Okay. But then when you get to the communication stage, and not faulting you because it's the way society is now, when you determine that you're going to allow this information to be disseminated through a news media or ESU or whoever, we send communications through emails. You're in a meeting with people face to face and the decision is made. If you decide along the line that you want to go in a different direction than the decision was made, why isn't a phone picked up and the person called? I don't think there's any elected officials in the county that when their person comes into their room and says, the executive's on the phone would like to speak to you, that they'll deny speaking to you. I think emails are the problem, emails and texts.
Yeah.
And I think that's a little clarification.
Sure. So I'll tell you why, actually, I think a lot of elected officials actually, and I won't just say elected officials, this is probably anybody, emails actually are great for us because they're documentation. And not that that was necessarily the reason why it was done this way, but on the 24th, Sheriff Lewis wasn't the only one that was on that email. It was also his entire command staff. And I'm actually quite happy that I ended up sending that and putting the command staff on it because he actually was out of town he was at a sheriff's conference that week. So typically second in command obviously would handle that. So unfortunately though, there was 5 or 6 members on there and no one heard from it. But you are right. I mean, you are right that probably a phone call should have been made and that might have been maybe a follow phone call after the email, but I understand that. So, okay, go ahead.
I submitted a PIA request for some of the people in your office, I think just 30 days or over, and I haven't received anything back. I haven't been told that there's going to be an extension by 10 days or any official notice about that. What do you think of that?
Sure. So if we're talking about the same communication, there was something that was going to take our lawyers quite a bit of time, and a cost was associated with it. Is that the same PIA?
Yeah, I think this person said they had all the documents they needed, and they received all of it. They were waiting for something.
That would be, I will chat with her. She's obviously out, but from what I understood, that there was no confirmation that the payment would be made at $185 an hour.
Right. I've reached out several times to talk with, I believe, this person who's in charge of gathering this, and I've been in constant contact back and forth. I've not received anything yet.
Okay.
In regards to me making a payment because they weren't able to give me the cost yet.
Got you. Okay.
Waiting on some more time that was spent.
Well, I apologize.
I think over 30 days at this point.
Okay. I will double check on that as soon as I leave here.
Do you have a comment on whether that's appropriate or should something be changed or like your transparency in PIA seems a little bit inappropriate. Do you think it is?
So I think that every situation is probably a little bit different. So I would probably, before I made a comment on that, probably would need to research on why. I do know that there was some communication back and forth with our attorney about costs and things like that. So anyway, so before I make a comment, I would need to probably gather all the information. Okay? All right. I have a meeting that I need to get to, so I thank you all very, very much. And I hope that this clarified some things. And I hope you all have a really great day. Thank you.